What's up, Closing Nation? Welcome back. Another episode of the Hardcore Closer Podcast. It's right there. You know it's official. You know what I'm saying? If you're here, it's your first time. I'm glad that you're here. Make sure you leave me a review. I guess it's what everybody that has a podcast begs for, right? But really cool. I got like, a couple thousand reviews. So at this point, don't really fucking matter if you do or not, I guess. So here's the thing, though. You probably hear because you read Hardcore Closer, you thought, oh, this has got to be about sales. And it is to an extent. And there's a ton of episodes, obviously. I've been doing this shit for over 10 years now. But I'm just going to break sales down for you like I do every episode so that we can move the fuck on, because I think sales is a really simple subject. It works like this. If you want to close sales, you need confidence and empathy. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how confident and how empathetic you are. If you don't have enough hands to shake, you will not have enough money to make. So you got to go out and figure out how to shake hands. How do you shake hands? You get leads. How do you get leads? Social media. How do you get leads from social media? You use a product called Phone Sites. PhoneSites.com/closer. You create a lead generating website that has artificial intelligence. It will write the shit for you. Like Michael Jackson coming back from the grave. I'm telling you, it is going to make the hits, right? All right, so here's the deal. Go to PhoneSites.com/closer. You can use it for 2 weeks. No matter if you've never built a website, if you've never even logged on to the fucking internet in your life, you will be able to build a website with Phone Sites in less than 10 minutes, without a tutorial, without anything else you can't write. No problem. Just type in some words like you would do a Google search. This motherfucker will write an elaborate paragraph that sells moonshine to the alcoholics that are recovering and don't want none of it. I'm telling you, it's the greatest thing. That was a terrible analogy, but look, I'm on the fly here. But here's the deal. While you're there, you can also get the last business card that you're ever going to need. It's $1. Fucking business cards cost $125 every month for people to throw your shit away. You can get a postcard, tap it on the website, and it captures leads. Imagine knocking on somebody's door. Sir, I have some shit to sell you. They're like, I'm not interested. It's like, okay, well, let me leave you my business card. Okay, and then they just tear it up, right? In this case, it's, sir, I have some shit to sell you. I'm not interested. Cool. Well, let me swipe my card on your phone so you have my contact information for the future. They think, okay, sure, what harm does it do? You swipe their phone, little did they know, you just took their conversation. You don't got to knock the door anymore. You can follow up with them. That's right. So go to phonesites.com/closer, because the more hands you shake, the more money you make. You don't need to get better at sales. You're already probably fucking good at sales. You need leads. All right, man. So speaking of leads, I got a guest here today. And listen, I don't bring a lot of guests into the show because this is my space. It's my shit, you know. But when I do, it's always somebody that's worthy. And always somebody that's got their stuff going on and has at least something exciting to talk about. So today, I'm with my man, Brittingham. What's up, big dog?
What's up, brother?
So Brandon here, he put up like $250 million a year or so in real estate, avid investor. We partnered up and have a program called Apex Investors where we help people learn how to manage their money and learn how to make good investments and not just give them investments to pour into, but also give them an education so where they can go out and find their own shit that maybe we pour into as well. So glad to hang out with you, man.
Yeah, man. We were due for one. We were due for one. We needed to get on here together.
It's been a couple years, huh?
Yeah.
And man, I just stay in my own lane and just running my own shit, so I forget to invite people. I think the last probably 6 guests that I have were just like you do, just somebody here. It's like, hey man, let's do a podcast versus scheduling them or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But man, so how'd you get into real estate?
Man, what's crazy is I just always had this like infatuation when I was a kid. I was always drawn to it. And then when I started to research it and understand that wealthy people, that's how they became wealthy. And I come from being super poor, no high school education, no college education, so it's there's not much shit I could do to become wealthy, right? And so that was one of the things that I always was attracted to. Was real estate was one of those things where it just had my allure and my attention since I was a kid, you know what I mean? And then when I started to pay attention to it, I was like, shit, man, this is real. This wealth, it's real money, it's real shit involved. And that's kind of what got me down that path originally.
I feel like I was called to it my whole life too. I remember, much like you, similar background. Obviously, everybody knows that that's watching this show. But, I remember my parents when I was I couldn't have been 7, 8, 9 years old. And we lived in this town called Leonard. And it's like 1,500 people. And it's so far in the sticks at this time, like Dallas has grown a lot, but it's so far up in North Texas at this time that it's the middle of nowhere. You know, now it's freeway runs right through it, right? But not back then.
Yeah.
And my parents would leave on Saturdays at like 10 a.m., you know, maybe Sunday at 10 a.m. And they would go to this neighborhood in Plano, Texas called Willow Bend, and they would like hit up the open houses. Now, first of all, if you go to a house in Willow Bend right now, they $8-9 million minimum.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like but they would go and tour these. You know, my dad probably drove a 1986 S10 pickup. They knew
Right.
he was like that guy's like pull up, pull the emergency brake. But you know, as a kid, you don't know. You're just like, you know, hey, shit, we here to tour the house. But man, I love that, and going and finding the secret. You know, as a kid, you're running around, you're finding the secret passages and stuff. And I always noticed too, you know, working at the car wash, these realtors would come in. It's like, man, people make good money selling these big houses.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's kind of the same revelation for me. And still today, I get excited doing, you know, house deals and going and building, you know, an office or my own deal or whatever that we got going. And still get the same feeling. But you took the shit to the next level. You're one of the biggest guys in your state, company, organization, all that, right?
Yeah, so we became number one in the state of Maryland like 2 years ago. We're number 2 in the U.S. for the size team that we are in. And I'll tell you...
Which is how many people?
So last year we were about a team of 20. And we did $250 million and 900-ish transactions. So... super productive team. We're like fucking Navy SEALs.
Right.
But the thing is, I didn't get into real estate to sell houses. I got into real estate from the investment side. Right. And the first couple of transactions I had were so bad, I was like, I'm gonna get my license.
Man, I hear that from so many investors. So many. You're right though.
So, and then the crazy thing was there was a lot of people in that industry that didn't invest in real estate. Right? It was like, I thought, you know, I'm going to get behind the, you know, I'm going to go see the Wizard of Oz and then like,
no, they got a new car though.
Right.
In an apartment that they rent.
Yeah. And so then I was like, man, the crazy thing about this industry was there's so many people that have access to this data and access to this shit, but they don't leverage it. Right. So then what I did was, you know, what I saw is there were so many things about this industry that was archaic, and it wasn't around, which I know you're a huge believer in this, of taking care of your customer. And so like I was like, well, if we can figure out how to solve all these problems, then we're going to have something that nobody else has, right? And then I think another big thing is you got to have a vision, and your vision has to be like, you know, as big as it needs to be, but you got to start there in reverse, right? So I named my team the Maryland Group because I wanted to be number 1 in the state. So we started it 5 years ago, but I named it that day because in my head we were number 1 in the state already, right? So we figured out how to bolt all this stuff on.
And that's a sellable brand, by the way,
Correct.
versus the
It's
Brittingham
not
team,
branded,
like so many of these ego-driven realtors do.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's...
I'm not shitting on you ego-driven realtors. I'm just saying nobody's going to buy your name. You're not that cool. I don't care how cool you think you are. Nobody's that cool. There's a reason why this isn't Ryan Stewman University.
Yeah, you know, and to that point, man, one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was young and started my team, and a guy said to me, don't name it after you.
Yep.
And I was like, that's bullshit. And he's like, no, it's not. And the analogy he gave me that I'll never forget, he said, you ever go to Vegas and watch the Blue Man Group? I said, yeah, actually I have. He said, well, guess what? If one of them gets sick, they shave somebody's head, they paint somebody else's face blue, they put them on. Usually consumer don't know.
Yep.
And I was like, fuck, man, that's fucking pretty wild. That's a pretty wild analogy, and that stuck with me. And so same thing.
They shave somebody, paint them blue, and stick them out there. You're up.
Yeah, but I'm
number
just,
6.
But I'm just saying, right? If you're in the crowd, you don't really know the difference.
That's true,
right?
You know,
so
name one member of the Blue Man Group.
You don't know,
right?
Yeah,
they're just like number 1 through 6 or whatever the hell, right?
You don't know. So that was one of the things that, like, you know, that stuck with me. But the thing is, what I try to tell people, right, and what I have a passion for is this is a vehicle that can actually make you wealthy, right? And so, all right, you can get into real estate and sell houses and make money.
And get rich.
Make
a couple $100,000, maybe even $1 million a year selling houses.
But
right?
you ain't going to get wealthy, right? You can invest in real estate and become wealthy.
Absolutely.
And there's a huge difference between that. Rich, you can fuck up in a wild summer, right? wealthy is your money's long and it's going to be generational. It's completely different. So that was the thing that I learned that I want to build this shit to be wealthy, right? And then even my agents and stuff, when they get to a certain level of income, like I'm teaching them, put your money in real estate and help grow and become wealthy, because that's the game-changing shit, man.
It is.
You know
Same
what I
with
mean?
my guys. I make them buy houses, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I literally make everybody here owns a house, you know?
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and I think the thing is, you can have any education background, you can come from anywhere, you can be any religion, you can be any creed, and you can get wealthy in real estate. And that's why I love it, and that's why I love also teaching other people how to do it. Because a lot of things, business, sales, you talk about all the time, we always overcomplicate shit, right? Real estate is pretty simple. If you can buy an asset under its value and hold it for some time, over time it's just going to go up. The best analogy that I love to give people is, hey, you remember when you were a kid? You remember what you could buy a house for in your neighborhood? What's that house worth today, right?
You know what? Funny story. You asked that. My parents paid $90,000 for the house that I lived in Allen, Texas, when I was in the 5th and 6th grade. We lived there for 2 years. I never lived anywhere in my life more than 2 years consistently until where I live now.
Yeah.
But we lived there for 2 years, and we lived at 1504 Clover Drive in Allen, Texas. And I drove through that neighborhood not too long ago. You know, it's like Sunday, and I'm out driving the Lambo or some shit. It's like, I'm a cruise through the whole neighborhood, you know, try not to get shot, right? So anyway, dude, these fucking houses are $600,000 right now.
Exactly.
This is a $90,000. And dude, it was a ripoff at $90,000 in the 80s. I'm not even shitting you. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to I'm just saying, when I was like 8 years old, we weren't proud to live in Greengate. You know what I mean? But these are like $600,000 fucking houses over there now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Unreal.
The
neighborhood does still look the same then. Actually, maybe even cleaner now, like they put a HOA in there or whatever. But but like unreal. The poor neighborhood, which was like one block over from Greengate, was like all the roads had the same letter: Wandering Way, Roaming Road, all this shit, right? Like that was the quote unquote poor neighborhood. And I saw those houses were going for $300,000, man. And I know one time I looked at an auction to buy a house for $30,000 in that neighborhood.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell people, which this is not like out of the realm for anyone, you know, if you could buy 10 houses in your lifetime and then hold them and keep them for a period of time, right? In 10 to 15 years, there's a good chance they'll double. They might even fucking triple, right?
Yep.
And then one day, you're getting $1,500 a month for rent. In 10 to 15 years, that probably doubles, right? So you could wake up one day and say you pay $300,000 for every house. You could wake up one day, all your houses are paid off. They're all worth $600,000. Say you bought 10, you got a $6 million asset that's paying you probably $2,500 to $3,000 a month. That's attainable for almost everybody. People think that it's not, but it is. Anybody can own 10 houses in their life with a lot of strategies you can learn in real estate, and if you hold them over time, they probably double.
It'll be $10 million in real estate, probably.
Exactly. And a lot of people think it's this difficult, and it's really not.
You know, I just looked. That house is $400,000. So, and that can't be more than 1,200 square foot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unreal. But think about that. So 20 years, that's how long ago I lived there. Okay, 40 years ago. 35 years ago I lived there. So in 35 years, it's 10x itself, right?
Yeah.
So it's worth it's a little less than 10x itself. It's 3x itself, sorry. So 5x itself. I'm just trying to do some guerrilla math here in my head, guys. Bear with me. So in 35 years, it 5x'd itself. So this thing's worth $500,000. Just think if someone would have bought 10 homes in that neighborhood for $90,000, $85,000 back then and held it this whole time, they'd have $5 million worth of real estate that they're literally less than, $1 million in on.
Mm-hmm. And that's the math.
Yeah.
One of the
that they would have cash flowed this whole time, rented out too, because it's always going to be a rental neighborhood.
Yeah, and one of the things that like woke me up to investing in real estate, I used to live in New York City. My friend's grandmother was an immigrant from Vietnam. Came to this country in the 70s, spoke no English. Saved all of her money, bought one house in Manhattan, right? Apartment, bar at the bottom. It obviously went up in value. She took the money out of that, bought another one.
Yep.
Then she kept buying them, then she kept buying them, then she kept buying them. Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. because one of the properties she bought was in the Village of New York, and New York City landmarked it. But she bought a couple of properties, not crazy. She probably had 15. She cashed out, it was like 90 million.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so that was one of the things that she hadn't cashed out when I met her, but she could hardly speak English. When she came here, she had a little bit of money. She obviously didn't understand our financial system and how that shit worked. And then I'm looking at her when she cashed out, and like she retired and and sitting on a fuck ton of money.
And probably moved
like,
back over there where it don't cost shit to live, you know.
Well, what she did was she ended up buying a bunch of already like tenant in place like Walgreens. So she took a bunch of her money and invested in that, so she's just getting residual, and she like moved to Atlantic City and like, you know, gambling and having fun and living the life she wanted to live, right? And then she ended up moving to Vegas. But the point I'm making is she came to this country with no money, no education, no idea of our financial system, and she became seriously wealthy just by investing in real estate. And that was another thing that like caught my attention, where I was like, well, fuck, man, if she can figure it out, I can too. And that was one of the things that kind of took me on the path of wanting to figure out how to invest in real estate.
First, isn't it cool that there's like somebody in our life that goes, man, if that, you know, there's been several times in my life that I'm like, if that person can do it, then surely I can figure it out too, right? And I hope to be that person for people. Hopefully, I play this sometimes aloof character so that people are like, man, if Stewman can get his shit together, surely I can, you know, because I really want to be that, because there was, you know, there's been times in my life where it's like, it's impossible, and then I see somebody's like, wait, that guy, oh, dude, I got to get back to work now that I know that it's possible, you know. So let's switch it up a little bit. You have a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience. Neither one of us have a crystal ball, and last time I checked, weren't fortune tellers or Nostradamus. But what's going on with the market, man? You know, what if at being an investor and a broker and a large team and a manager, like, we could talk about real estate forever, but people want to know what the fuck you think and I think is going to happen in the future, and what are some plays to get plugged into?
So it's a couple things, right? So real estate fundamentally is based on supply and demand.
And are you seeing a slowdown in your market up there in Maryland?
So where we are, no.
Okay.
But again, it's predicated on where you are, right? So there's a couple things that's weird. So the last, say, 15-ish years, we didn't build a lot of houses around the United States as a whole, right? So you can't just wave a wand and create inventory. And that's the one thing that's weird about all this. Like, you're seeing a pullback, but you still don't have a ton of inventory.
The reason we need inventory, I believe, is because BlackRock or somebody like them bought up a lot of the regular single-family homes. So you and I are trying to move to Maryland, for example, and then BlackRock scooped it up for 5% above market value, and then all of a sudden there's the demand is going to these hedge funds, and you and I, John Q. homeowner, are like, well, damn, we need some supply too, you know?
Well, it wasn't just them. You had a bunch
a lot of them, right,
a bunch of different companies. But then going back...
Which, by the way, sorry to interrupt, a lot of those guys will go bankrupt soon as the foreshadowing bubble pops, so we'll be able to buy them back.
Yeah, then you had,
happens.
like, after the COVID, then you traditionally, what you would have had, your traditional summer, spring market, people just didn't put their houses on the market, right? And then
they didn't want people walking through them.
Right, and then what kind of happened, which was kind of weird, is like there was like a shift in the consumer mindset, like pretty quick, where they were like, fuck, if I got to go through this again, I want to own a house. So you had no inventory, and then you had, I want to buy shit, and then you had this huge flee from a lot of the metropolitan areas.
And crypto going up.
Yeah, and you had this like great reshuffling everywhere.
PPP money.
And then
you had EIDL money.
2.75, 3% rates. You had stupid cheap money. So it gobbled a ton of inventory
Perfect
up.
storm.
Yeah, it gobbled a ton of inventory up. So what you had is you had an unrealistic market. So it has to pull back from where it was, because it just wasn't fucking real.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And all the factors that made it be what it is wasn't like a normal economy. So the one thing that I always tell people, though, even when shit's really bad, people buy and sell houses, right? Some of the best years I had in my career, 08, 09, 2010, when it was taking to shit everywhere, there were still a lot of people that need to buy and sell a house, right?
Yep.
So
those are great years.
Yeah. You know? Do I think the market's going to pull back from a pricing standpoint? Definitely it will, I think, because you had fucking 200-300% increases in prices.
Yeah.
Right? Like
my house doubled in value according to Zillow in like 3 years. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not normal.
I don't think we'll see the '08 again, just because you don't have the same factors.
Right.
And if inventory doesn't change, then you have that at play too, where it's a supply and demand issue. What I think is, if you're an investor and you learn how to invest in real estate, the thing about it is that you are trying to look at it from a long-term investment. Now, you don't ever want to buy at the top of the market. However, in any real estate market, it doesn't matter good or bad. There's always good deals.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. There's always somebody getting foreclosed on, bro.
Always somebody in trouble.
Always.
And if you know how to evaluate a deal and underwrite a deal, it doesn't matter. And if you're going to keep it for a long period of time, you're going to be all right. Do you know what I mean? Either way, you're going to be all right. So I think if you are thinking about getting in real estate from an investment side, I think there's a hell of an opportunity coming for you. Like a hell of an opportunity.
And so where would you say those are? So like where I live in Dallas here, right? In the suburbs, there's a lot of houses that were like, let's say 2 years ago that were $500,000 to, $1 million. That market got gobbled up, and what was $500,000 went to 700. What was 700 went to 1.1 sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it just got gobbled up. It didn't exist. You couldn't buy a house up in Collin County for under like $500,000 the last year, right? In 2021, right? But then here we are in 2022. It's the summer. We're in the full swing. And man, I get notifications. I'm an investor, so I've got a Redfin, Zillow, all these people. Man, a lot of these houses sitting around on the upper end.
Yeah.
Now these houses, some of them they should have sold last year at 600, they come back down to 500, and they're still moving. Because we live in a good economy up here in Texas. But man, if it's over $1.2 million with the higher rates right now, they ain't moving. Like houses in my neighborhood were selling for 1.8 to 2.5 all last year, and there's two right now for 1.6 and one for there's two houses for sale, one for 1.6 and one for 2.2. And last year those would have been smoking deals for the houses that they are, and they've been there for 2 months. They've been there all summer long.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a couple of things, right? Like, when you look at data, and if you look at like markets, I think DFW is a great market, and I think DFW like long term is just always gonna appreciate. Like, and you're gonna have different things in the market where shit pulls back and it goes back up, but when you look at like places where people want to live, Texas, Arizona, Florida, Texas especially, because you have jobs. Do you know what I mean? People want to live
in the middle
here.
of the country. It's located for everything.
Exactly. And so I think long term stuff's always going to go up here, and you're going to always have people move here.
It's always going to be stable. I've never seen it decline here in the 42 years that I've lived here, but here's what I know, and this is what nobody's talking about, is that so I've been a subscriber to the foreclosure list for forever, and if you want to know what it is, it's the number foreclosure.info, and it was called the Roddy Report. George Roddy passed away, so his son George Roddy Jr. is taking it over. First of all, that's how fucking old I am. I can tell you the history of a website that I've been using for 2 decades now. So I started subscribing to the Roddy Report back in 2004. And what we did was back then, subprime boom was going on, so anybody could get a loan. And so I worked for mortgage companies. So what we did was we mailed everybody that was on the Roddy Report. Now, let me explain what this is in Texas, because not everybody's from Texas, so I shouldn't make the assumptions that they know. But in Texas, there's only one day a month that you can foreclose on a homeowner. Okay.
Really?
And you didn't know this? Oh, no. This some game, man. Let me eat a game.
I did
all right.
not know that.
So in Texas, it's called Foreclosure Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of every month, and that's the only day. So as a homeowner in Texas, if you can postpone that shit and make it past Tuesday, you bought yourself another free month out of foreclosure, right?
Damn, I did not know
Most
that.
other states, they file the paperwork. It's just like being an evicted. Now, if you're a renter, you ain't got no rights. But if you're a homeowner, then it's Foreclosure Tuesday. And so it's the first Tuesday of every month. In order to make it through that, the banks have to file the lawsuit papers with the county.
Right.
So the Roddy Report scans all the county lawsuits, pulls them out, and tells you what the properties are, their price, and everything else. So it comes out. 2 weeks before the first Tuesday, right? So they put together, like right now there might be 5 properties on it because we're not close enough to the date, right? But, you know, all the banks about the last 5-6 days, they start filing everything, especially the last couple days. And what happens, I've been watching this for 20 years, Brandon, and there's 5 counties here in Dallas that I watch. Dallas, Collin, Rockwall, Tarrant, and Denton. And I'm totally giving my game away, but I'm not that active anyway. So I go to this website, pull those 5 counties, and I look. For 20 fucking years, there's 3,000 to 5,000 a month between those. Back in the 2009 and 10, there was as many as 30,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Lawsuits being filed, people being kicked out, right? But stabilized, there's roughly, 3,000 or so, 3,500 on average every month for my life in this.
Right.
Until last year, when the forbearance shit started kicking in, then there was like 10, 12.
Yeah.
Right now, last month, there was 72. So hold up. You mean to tell me that 3 to 3,500 people a month throughout the history of 20 years don't pay their bills on average in the Metroplex? Shit happens, you lose a job. But in the worst economic time ever, we missed out on possibly, if we just took 3,500, we missed out on 50,000 foreclosure opportunities that just never showed up. They just never. So these people just like all of a sudden fixed their credit, decided to get a haircut and a fucking job. Like, come on, man. So I say that because these forbearances, the market doesn't know. Right now, we got a little bit of extra inventory, but most forbearances, because I chase these homes on the Roddy report, my goal was to get them out of foreclosure before Foreclosure Tuesday, or show up at the court and buy their shit from them and rent it back to them, or whatever I had to do, right? So I learned how to do forbearances, foreclosure, file the paperwork. I'm a bad motherfucker when it comes to real estate paper shuffle game, right? A little rusty now, but back then, boy, I was the top of my game. And so I know that because forbearances typically last 2 years.
Yeah.
If you can get a forbearance on a property, as long as back then to current times, they will give you a maximum of 2 years forbearance, right? And that means you got 2 years to do a repayment plan. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not making payments, but maybe you're making a $1,000 a month payment instead of a $3,000 a month payment. But here's where almost everybody that ever got a forbearance wound up in foreclosure, because there is a balloon payment at the end of that motherfucker.
They stick on
and
the
all
back
of a
end.
sudden they say, this is what they say. Now you owe us $50,000 for the 2 years that you didn't pay us. And you went, well, how do I pay that? And they go, I don't know. You can refinance. You go, well, I don't have any equity. The market's down. It's not what it was in 2021 when I took this deal. And they're like, see you on the Roddy report, right? Like, so it's coming. And I got this sneaking suspicion. The fuck do I know? Don't got a crystal ball, but it's coming right after this election. The midterms, everybody hates everybody in Congress anyway. These guys are scrambling, trying to save face. So the last thing they want to do is further piss off, because I feel like Congress is on the cusp of another like White House storming or whatever, the Capitol storm. Like they're on the, and I think this time it won't just be one party or the other. I think it's just going to be Americans mad at shit that's going on, right?
Yeah.
And I think foreclosing on a bunch of motherfuckers would be the spark that you threw in the pile of gas, right? So they're trying to fucking hold that so that, they can blame the next guys that replace them or whatever. I'm sure these old bastards are.
Yeah.
But it's coming. And
Yeah.
you can't tell me that we missed out on 50,000, just 50,000 fucking people decided to get their shit together. I'm not that dumb.
They just what they did was probably what most of your banks did is they just didn't file on people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just didn't file, or they just didn't report it.
Because for a year there was a deal where they couldn't do that anyway.
They just
remember?
froze. Yeah. They just completely froze. Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Memorandum, moratorium, whatever the fuck, mandate, whatever the hell it was. Yeah, came from the president.
Yeah, and I mean I lived through 2008, and same thing. Like I was really good at foreclosures, short sales, all that stuff. I learned all of it, and man, I got. It was a wild ride because I got to see on the inside of like how some of that shit was being ran, and like it was actually pretty scary. Kind of to your point. I mean, like they're telling us, hey, this isn't a recession, and what did they just pass? The Recession Reduction Act that's gonna or the Inflation Reduction Act that's gonna cause more inflation.
Yeah,
like that kind of shit.
And the IRS agents.
Yeah, and then fucking how about
that's scary.
How about
first of all, how do you hire 75,000 people? Like, first of all, if you go to work for the IRS under this new bill, fuck you anyway, man. That's a terrible fucking job to take, man. Like, you go from, like, helping the country to, like, hurting people. Like, no, hell no.
It doesn't make any sense.
No sense, man.
It doesn't make any sense.
Hey, man, like, isn't it funny? Like, I'm just going to say some odd shit that needs to be said. But it's like, hey, man, we're hurting here in America. Gas prices are high. Supply chain with the food. It take me 6 fucking weeks to get a window in if you order a window, and that's because I got a hookup. You know what I mean?
No, it's crazy.
Buildings down. But these fuckers send $40 billion to Ukraine, right? Then they hire 75,000. Another $40 billion or whatever it was to hire 75,000 IRS agents. Like, hey man, I can't get a hamburger or some shit. You know what I'm saying? I can't get a month off of a rent here or something. Like, you gonna help the Ukraine and the IRS? You can tell they're not on team people. There is no. If you think that the government is on team people, you are insane. Just look at what they're doing. It's like, oh, there's no inflation, or we're going to reduce the inflation. Or there's no recession, we're going to reduce the recession. Like, what the fucking ridiculousness, man.
You know, and here's the point about that. The thing that I learned really early is that no one was going to come save me, right? And so that was why I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to invest in real estate. Because, you know, you and I have been on the road together. You know this. When you've got enough money, the rules don't apply to you.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's just, it's insane, you know? And I've seen that over and over again. And if you can build your own lane and your own path, and you can create your own wealth, you know, I think we've seen recently that from a government standpoint, they're not making decisions in a lot of people's best interest.
No, nobody's but their own.
And you've got to make decisions in your best interest so that you can provide for you and your family. And you got to build your own fucking wealth so you're not subjective to this shit. And that was one of the things that I learned in 2008. I was like, you know, in so many situations, I was like sitting across from a man, and he's crying because he's going to lose his house. He's in foreclosure with his family. And I was like, man, I got to figure out a way to never be in this position. And a lot of it was they signed loans they didn't understand, or this or that, or it was a number of reasons. They lost their job, whatever. And I was just like, I don't want to have to be dependent on someone else. Like, I've got to fucking make my own lane because I don't want to fucking end up there. Yeah. And so many people are so fucking scared to start their own business or be an entrepreneur or whatever. And it's fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? You are trading a 9-to-5 to give up on your dreams, and then you're subject to whatever the fuck someone else can do and just completely shit on you, when probably if you just took some time and learned a skill, real estate, whatever, something that you're passionate about, to go into entrepreneurship, you change your fucking life. You just gotta stop being scared.
You know, you are right, and the biggest thing that you said out of that is, like, if you have money, the rules don't apply to you.
Yeah,
and
it's the truth.
And we think, you think, I know what I think, but I assume that you think, or most people think, that must mean billionaires, extreme wealth.
No.
Listen, I live in a neighborhood with, you know, $2 million homes, $1 million to $2 million homes, and you might think where you live that's rich, but it's pretty normal. Where I live, if you're in California, you might think that's utter poverty, right? But if you're in Kansas, that might be a very expensive house, right? Depending on what part. But I say that because it's very average. My neighbors are engineers, and they have jobs. Most of them are not entrepreneurs. They're mostly people that, you know, have worked at a job for 15, 20 years. I'm the youngest guy at 40 on my street, you know, at 42 on my street. So it's diverse. We've got a little bit of everybody in the neighborhood. And so I say that because, you know, we have this persona that it's got to be extreme wealth. In order for the rules not to apply to you, you got to be like Trump or Epstein or Bill Clinton, or like just like a Saudi sheik or a prince, or like just this huge amount of money. And it's not true. During the pandemic, my neighbors and we had people over, right? Like, you could go, like, if down the street at the houses that are maybe $200,000 or $300,000 back then, if those people were partying, definitely at the apartment complexes, if those people had people over, they were snitching on them, right? Not us. Fuck, we were throwing big ass block parties and shit, I went to the mayor of one of the cities around here's party during lockdown, and the rule was leave your phone in the car, right? That was like the rule. Like, why? Because we got a little money. The rules don't apply to us, right? There was a video the other day that was shared by this guy named Andrew Tate. He's a very controversial character, and I don't know a lot about him, but he said, I believe he's a black guy, but I don't know, right? African American looking dude, maybe not. Maybe Middle Eastern fella, but he says if you're black and I'm white, or I'm white and you're black, whatever he says in the thing, and we're both in Monaco and we have our yachts backed up to each other, I don't care what your skin color is, we're billionaires. He's like, that poverty argues over race and shit like that. Billionaires, we both know we're winners. Skin color doesn't matter. I'm like, man, that's real shit though, right? Because what they're saying is we both won. Those rules that apply to the poor people don't apply to us, so we know that we're equals. Right.
And you know what's unfortunate? It's set up to keep you poor. And And that's why you got to educate yourself to get out of that shit.
And that's why they tell you shit like don't buy real estate. They don't teach you that in school, because that's the key. The number one way to get wealthy or build some sort of wealth in America is through real estate. And so here's the thing, though. When you got a little money, you can hire a lawyer to do what you want. Now, I'm not saying to go out there and commit crimes, but like, for example, when 2020 hit, I got a little money. So we didn't shut down my business. And you know what? If the police would have showed up here, I got the money and the attorneys to fight it. But you know what's crazy is they didn't show up. And I don't want no smoke, guys. Remember, I bought you a dog. But I'm just saying they didn't show up here because they know I got money and can find them. It'd be a waste. It would cost them money. It doesn't make sense for them. There's nothing for them to gain there.
I want to tell you the best example, and I was with you, that made me realize this shit, is when we flew to California. And California was in complete lockdown, right?
Yes.
And we flew private, no mask, no nothing, right? And we stayed at a hotel, which I'm not going to name.
But you know the hotel. It's a very famous hotel.
We stayed at a hotel. Everybody, and we were there for a something where a lot of people who are successful were there for. That's all I'm going to say, right? And you had the general public in the hotel, and they locked them down.
And they were masked up.
And they didn't say shit
and
to us.
We did not have to wear masks in
thing.
LA. In LA.
I
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
In the height of the lockdown, because we flew into Burbank Airport in a private jet and rented out the ballroom of the hotel. They did not require any of us to produce a COVID test or any of us.
Not one of us.
They would bitch if you walked by and you didn't have a mask on. They'd be like, "Sir, put a mask on." But if I walked by, because they knew who the fuck we were, they would not ask us that. It wasn't because I'm tough or blah, blah. It's because I got a little money. I was paying their bill. They all work for me. So it is. I forgot about that, and that's just one of
that. But
I have a million of those examples because I'm flying private and shit.
But that was the one example to me. And then anywhere we moved around that whole weekend, no one said shit to us. We didn't have to wear a mask. We didn't have to follow the rules. And that's when I was like, I went home, and I was like, man, that shit is for real.
Yeah.
Like, that's for real. And then the other thing is...
So imagine if you had real money. I mean, I'm just talking about, this is like, me and Brandon, we're not billionaires. We know we're running honest businesses, and you know, we've made it in life, but we're not like what, you know, it's funny because the richer you get, I think the poorer you think you are, you know what I mean? But you know, we're not definitely not top of the food chain, but like, you think about some of these people who are, and you're like, man, if we didn't have to wear a mask in there, it's like, man, I wonder what kind of shit they're into.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that was wild. And that was one of the things that clicked with me then, too. It was like, I got to teach more people. It's not a secret, but I've got to unlock more people's mind to make them understand that there's two ways to live, right? And there's the way that they're shoveling shit on you and trying to hold you down.
Yeah, arguing politics, having a favorite TV show, you know what I mean?
Or you can say, I'm going to make a change and the rules don't apply to me. You know what I mean? And that was when I was like, fuck, I got to teach more people. Because, again, I just go back to myself. I don't have a high school education, right? My grandparents lived in the same house that was falling down around them. That's how fucking poor we were. Thankfully, I was able to buy them a brand new house when I could afford it. I didn't go to college, right? I didn't start with money. I didn't have anyone help me. And so, you know, for me, it's always like, I tell people, if I can do it, you can do it, right? And you don't have to fucking...
That's how I feel.
You don't have to fucking live the rest of your life of shit being shoveled on you and being subjective to whatever it is. Think about it. You can move around how you want. You can do what you want. And that's part of wealth, is freedom. It's not just money. It's freedom. And that's what fucking people have to understand. You can get wealth. You can get fucking freedom. And freedom is time. You can buy your fucking time back. Yeah,
you know, and so many people, and I say this all the time, they look at us, and how old are you?
I'm about to turn 40 this year in February.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
39.
so they look at us and they think, oh, well, these guys got a lot going on. But I just told you I've been reading the same website for 20 fucking years. 20 fucking years I've been on this website every month for 20 years. Whether I bought some shit or not. Ask me how many times I went and bought houses from auctions. 3 fucking times, right? But I negotiated a shitload off of this sheet before then. So it's like people hear us, they think, oh, the way to get rich is go get on a podcast and talk, and then people will come to you. No. Brandon, you used to make the calls. I used to make the calls. Let me tell you what I do. Once I got to maybe my 3rd check in the mortgage company, the boss of the mortgage company, the broker, said, her name was Monica, she's passed away now, but she said, I'll pay for the mailer if you'll take, and the cell phone, if you'll take the fucking leads. And I thought, shit, man, I've been knocking doors this whole time. You mean people are going to call us? So they sent out a mailer as soon as the list was released, because back then it all got dropped at once. As soon as it dropped, we hit a mailer, and I had this phone number that it would ring. And so I would keep it for 24 hours, and my partner Dreslinski would keep it for 24 hours. And then we would just have people meet us at the office and bring their paperwork so we could stop the thing and maybe sell it to our investors or whatever. I've been doing that shit for 20 years, right? Like, so people think, oh man, Stewman's got a real estate portfolio and a business portfolio that I built by going to the same website and making those calls, talking to those people. Man, I have people at midnight strung out on crank and shit. It's like, man, fuck, I need to do something. Hey man, I got you, bro. I'll meet you at the office in 30 minutes, man. It's getting out of bed, ready to go, like, because you got to go when the opportunity is there. And so many people don't see that. That wasn't on social media because I'm so old it didn't exist back then. But I promise you, those nights where I was leaving the office and shit at 3 in the morning, they weren't as sexy as people try to make it on social media. But man, doing that every single month for 20 years is what got me here. So they always say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is right now. Maybe you didn't plant yours 20 years ago. Maybe you ain't had 20 years to plant it, and start planting that motherfucker today.
Yeah, and I want to say something on that, because I think you struck a chord with me that really resonates with me, and I always tell people, right? People are like, man, you have 500 doors, you do this, you do all this crazy shit, and they're like, and then it's like, because I coach entrepreneurs, and the one thing that I really focus on is, I'm like, yo, listen, you got to do one thing really well. See, what the key to my success was, I got really good at sales first. That's what I was a monster
know that
at.
feeling.
Right. So then, and I was like, well, fuck, if, once I got really good at sales, then I got really good at marketing.
Yep.
Right?
That's the next step.
Then,
you know how many people never leave step 1? They keep going back for more sales training. Like, bro, you're a closer. You need people. You need marketing.
And I get it, because it's hard, man, because, once we get that IV of that sales, man, we never
Sales is free. Marketing costs money.
Yeah.
Sales, knocking on your door, cold calls is free. Marketing costs you money. That mailer costs money.
Damn right. So those 2 things are the things that I mastered. Then I learned how to lead people.
Yep.
I had those 3 skill sets. Then I could start stacking other shit on. And then I was able to figure everything else out. But what I always tell people is, like, you got to get really good at, like, 1 or 2 skills before you can worry about all this other shit. And here's the thing, to your point, like, fuck, man, it was 10,000 hours. It was thousands of sales calls. It was getting literally my fucking teeth kicked in. Mm-hmm. It was months of, like, can I pay the fucking bills? I don't know. My back's against the wall. I got to go out and make a sale. It's going through that shit of, like, physically and mentally getting, like, broken and saying, I'm going to fucking do this shit. And then mastering that shit, and then that's how you consistently stack on. Because if you have a visionary mindset, you and I both do, a lot of times we can go, fuck, shiny object, right? But it's like, man, no, if you're really good at a couple of things, then if you get really good at sales, you get really good at marketing, and you get really good at leadership, you're going to be a fucking dangerous person. Do you know what I mean? You will be dangerous. If you can use those 3 skill sets and you can master it, you can build a fucking empire.
The reason why it's those 3 skill sets, they all have in common is their people skill sets, right? You got to be able to convince people, influence people, right? Convincing is sales, influencing is marketing, and leadership is clearly leading people, right? And so those are people skills. People all the time say, oh, you don't have any people skills. What what does that mean? You know what I mean? So there you have it. Sales, marketing, and leadership, those are people skills that you have to have. They require, in order for you to sell someone, it requires another person. In order for you to market, it requires an audience of people. In order for you to lead somebody, it requires at least one other person for you to be a leader. Those are the people skills. So, man, you and I will sit here and shoot the shit forever. So let's switch gears one more time and talk about Apex Investors, right?
Sure.
So, if you're new here, may not know this, I run one of the largest mastermind business professional networks, whatever you want to call it, called the Apex. And we got several thousand members, and we have, in the past, we've always just kind of stayed in one lane, but we have, for the first time, added an additional layer for investors. One of the things that I struggle with personally is people are always saying, you know, hey, what do you invest in? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, investing's risky. You know, I don't have a perfect track record. I've lost my ass on some deals, and I've come up on some others.
Can I say something on that? Most of the shit I've lost money in has not been in real estate.
Yes, no, I will agree. No, I do.
It's been in real estate.
I don't know a fucking time that I've lost money on real estate. There's some times where I maybe didn't make as much as I thought I was going to, but I don't think there's ever a time where I've ever, and now I have to be on house number 200 or 300 at this point, which to some may be a lot, maybe not to others, but flips and shit, and that's not counting loans, but I have to at least be on number 200. I can't recall. It seemed like in my mind,
I've lost.
Let me tell you how bad the deal was. Yeah. One time I bought a deal at the fucking auction from the Roddy Report, and when I opened the front door from the curb, the house looked great. When I opened the front door, it was a hoarder place. They bought the house in October of 1979, and I don't think they threw away a piece of paper since then, bro. It was bad.
Jesus Christ.
So basically, had to bulldoze the whole fucking house. It was way more than I bargained for.
Right.
But I found an immigrant couple. I'm just saying, right? I ran an ad outside of the realtors. None of the realtors wanted to fuck with it because it wouldn't pass inspection. Right. I found an immigrant. Now, I rehabbed it without a CO or any fucking thing, like, because it wasn't no, man, it was that the bones were good, man, but the inside, like I said, was hoarders. It was fucked up. I had to redo, like, what should have been a 30-day project took me 6 months and stuff, you know, and I sold it to an immigrant couple who agreed to take a $50,000 discount from my listing price, not to inspect it, right? It's like, this place is fucked up. You're going to have to get your people here. I'm going to give you a discount, but it is what it is. And they paid me cash, and I still didn't lose money on that thing. I think I still made $2,500 after it was all said and done.
That's good.
But I can tell you a bunch of times outside of real estate, you're right. So, good, very valid point there. But with that being said, like, people are always asking me what to get involved in. And, you know, it's hard to find somebody who's a good custodian of money, to be honest with you, because Andy Frisell and I were talking the other day. It's like we both agreed that nobody's going to care about our money as much as us because we work so hard for it, and we're good operators and know what to do best with it, right? Like you're a good operator, so you know what to do with money. I'm a good operator. I know what to do with money. You know, same with him. He's like, I put back on the first for him. So, but Brandon's one of the people that I trust that has a good track record. He's obviously got a lot of prolific experience. Anytime you're doing $250 million of anything, you're good at it. But when you're in real estate and you're looking at $250 million of transactions, you're looking at another probably honestly $750 million that you didn't fucking make, right? Because like some shit falls through the cracks. I mean, and I might be underestimating that. You're not hitting home runs every time, clearly, right? So you're looking at this massive amount. There's going to be good deals at that volume that just fall from the tree. That's what I'm getting at. You know?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, no, it's been good. And you know, a couple of things. You mentioned Apex Investors, but I think one thing that I want to say, from being an outsider initially in Apex and coming in, so I've been part of a bunch of different masterminds, right? Entrepreneurs.
That's where I met you. Was that another one?
Yeah, we spoke on the same stage the one day at Cheplax. But if you're listening to this, and this is no fucking, I'm not trying to sell you. Ryan will tell you, I don't get paid a fucking commission if you join Apex. Like, you need to fucking look at Apex because it's a tribe like you've never been a part of or anything you've ever seen, right? And if you're like, and I've had so many people I've had this conversation with where they're like, you know, not shitting on anybody else's stuff, but I'm just telling you from personal experience, you're part of this mastermind or you're part of that mastermind or whatever, and they're like, man, it's just not the same. You know, it's just not the same. So I think that if you are an entrepreneur, not just an entrepreneur, but you want to level up and you want to get better, you want to get in the right tribe, you want to learn from people, like, you need to really look at Apex, because it's just, like, there's so many people that I'm, like, friends with. And the weird thing is, it's like, sometimes I think we think in our head, we have to measure how much someone is a friend with you by how much time you've known them, right? But the reverse, like in Apex, it's like you meet you meet somebody in Apex, you're like, I feel like I've known you for 15 years, right? And it's pretty fucking wild how close of a tribe that we have and how tight we all are with each other. Obviously, I'm in executives, which is your top tier, which is we're all super, super close to each other. We call, the funny thing is, I was on the phone today with 4 different people this morning on the way to the airport that were in some level of Apex. I was either helping them or they were helping me, right? And, it's not like, hey, you got to give me $1,500, get on the Zoom with you.
So what we're
or
trying
some
to do is
stupid
just
shit
help
like
each
that.
other.
Yeah, it's like, hey.
You didn't pay me to get on this podcast.
Exactly. And so the cool thing about all that is just, man, it's wild, the tribe that we have and the value that's shared and then the connections that you make. And for me, being in other masterminds where I just never experienced that, this is just different, man. And anybody that gets in it, if they're one of us, right, they say that shit like immediately, like this is different.
Yeah. Well, I think that's as you progress in the scale of income and authority in business, you start to leave some of the people you started out life with behind. And it's not an intentional, like, oh, I'm better than you guys, pop my collar thing. It's I can't go to John from my old neighborhood and be like, man, my payroll was $300,000 this week, and shit, I'm trying to buy this building too. And he's like, dude, that sounds like, I'd love to have those problems. Like, bro,
nah, you wouldn't.
Trust me.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
With great responsibility becomes, and that would seem like I was bragging to that person if I was to have that conversation. Bro, you bragging about a $300,000 payroll and buying a building and all this other stuff. It's like, no, man, I'm telling you, I'm struggling in business right now because I'm hammered down. How could you struggle when you have that you can't have that. So you just naturally start to leave them alone. And what happens is you end up on like an island. Yeah. And you're like, damn, I got to keep the shit to myself. And guys, especially, like, damn, I can't tell my old lady she'll go shopping. You know what I mean? Like, just being real. Can't tell my wife we got that much money. She'll be uncomfortable with it. And a lot of guys, I've had these conversations a million times in my career, a lot of entrepreneurs will say, I can't go talk to the same old guys, or even the guys I came up with because I passed them and I don't want to embarrass them or be awkward. Then you come to a place or you come to Apex and you meet people that are just like you, that are like, hey man, we are an island too, but we got an island with other people on it. It's not an own island with one person. It's an island with other people that you can talk to, and whether you've got a $20,000 problem or a $20 million problem, there's somebody in there that can, that's had it, is going through it, beat it, whatever the case.
One of the coolest things that I've experienced in life in general is being in Apex events and being in breakout sessions with people, right? And
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, and either I'm helping them solve their problem, or they're helping me solve their problem, or just in the conversation, I'm like, shit, man, that's crazy. And man, it's like we compress so much time, and like, this is not like, we get in these rooms, no one holds back. Like, it's like, this is fucked up, that's fucked up, this is what we're dealing with, this is what my problem is. First of all, if I go, I'm putting my ego to the side because I want to get better. I really want to learn. Hey, we're all fucked up, man. We all have shit that we deal with, right? So for me, I'm putting my ego to the side to learn. But the beautiful thing about that is we get in these rooms together and we really, really help each other. Where I've been in other masterminds where it was really about people who are just about their self, or to try to sell you a course or a program or some stupid shit, where versus in this situation, it's like, no, man, we're showing up vulnerable. We're going to help each other. We're going to lock in. We're going to help fucking change your life. And that's what this shit is about.
It's how it's supposed to be, man. It's how it's supposed to be. So, well, if you are, I don't think I've ever talked about this on this show since we changed the name to Apex. I mean, we talk about Apex, but I've never made an offer. But obviously we've been talking about it. If you're wanting to know more or fill out an application to join it, we have all sorts of levels. It starts as low as $500 a month. It goes as much as $10,000 a month, depending on what you want to play at. and where you are. There's qualifications. We're not just going to sell you the top tier thing because we can. If you don't belong there, you can't get in there anyway. So go to jointheapex.com and fill out that. Just click the button and fill out the application on there. One of my guys will hit you up from there. So and we've got investment programs, entrepreneur programs. We've got something that'll be tailored for your needs most likely, and if not, shit, give us some good feedback. We're always looking to learn. Brandon, if they want to connect with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Easiest way, be Brittingham, Facebook or Instagram, or find me on Facebook. That's where I communicate the best. Just find me on social media.
Cool. And if you find him, there's all these fake accounts and shit happens. So just make sure that he's the actual. Find me as a follower and a friend on his account, so you know it's the right one.
I'm not going to ask you for crypto or money.
Yeah. We'll never slide in your DMs and ask you for anything ever. We will never cold DM anybody. So, with that being said, make sure you leave us a review on the show. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you learned something, had a stimulating conversation. If you didn't take anything else away from this episode, you should probably buy some real estate. Rise above.
Damn right.